Fantastic. So thank you so much for the introduction. It feels privileged to be elevated to presenter mode, I must say. So look, some fantastic presentations and information for everyone so far this morning. Hopefully I'm going to take us somewhere a bit different, but hopefully not too different. Just thinking about, where we've come from, where we're going, what we're trying to achieve by these hackathons, for all these amazing students and people probably either starting or partway through a potential career as technologists or as professionals who will be utilising AI and this sort of technology to hopefully improve the world over the next 10 years, hence the 2031 and AI Odyssey. And for those of you who don't get the reference to 2001 A Space Odyssey, I think it's on a back catalogue on one of your favourite streaming services. So if we think to AI and the evolution of AI, it's been around for a while. It's referred to sometimes as an AI winter. Obviously, we had Alan Turing with a test where he theorised that machines could possibly think, and it's interested people, I think, from that time. Didn't really achieve everything that a lot of people had hoped, and we've talked of promises around artificial intelligence, which is just really a way of machines doing similar things that humans and animals, creatures, things that are alive can do. And you think about your five senses, which is always a good way to think about AI in terms of touch, taste, smell, vision, your eyesight, and sound, audio. And it's no surprise that a lot of artificial intelligence is focused around those senses and giving an understanding of those senses, particularly, obviously, vision and sounds in the form of language and speech as a natural place for AI to really burgeon and develop rapidly, particularly from 2008. Which is really when we had cloud computing scale on a planetary sort of level, and we started seeing these major platforms and big data capabilities, and AI has really accelerated since then. And now where we are today is really around the pervasive growth of AI and human cognition, cognitive services, reading, speech, vision. I think everyone on this call will have had at least one captcha trying to train a machine to tell them what is a sidewalk, what is a zebra crossing, what is a traffic light, all to help train the machines. So Mark Weiser once said from Xerox Labs, the most profound technology are those that disappear. They weave themselves into the fabric of everyday life until they're indistinguishable from it. And why I came with the 2031 and why I'm going to use that as a, not so much a rallying cry, but as a point of reference for people to think about AI at the moment. At the moment, you generally know if you're interacting with AI, but it's starting to disappear. So what will potentially that look like in 2031? Thinking that only 10 years ago, we had people like Netflix run a competition to improve their recommendation engines. And today, a lot of the AI is around those recommendation engines and the ability for the AI and the computer code to actually recognize what you're trying to search for and recommend to you things which match those criteria. So again, if you think about where that potentially is going to go, it's very, very interesting. And so that leads me into just a quick segue around Microsoft. And Microsoft has 8 global research centers around AI. Has over 1,000 researchers employed worldwide, over 20,000 patents, over 1,000 research papers, and we were first to human parity on vision, speech, and language. And obviously, a huge amount of development going on in this space, and Microsoft is going to be there, I guess, throughout the next 10 years of AI development, as will many other companies. We may have covered this in an earlier presentation, but I think it's really important to understand the digital feedback loop and how AI actually helps provide the outcomes of engaging with your customers, optimizing your operations, transforming your products and services, and empowering your employees through the feedback. And that feedback is on the basis of data, interpreting and understanding that data that's structured and unstructured, and trying to answer questions or provide insights in the forms of maybe a recommendation, maybe just answering a question, maybe automating a process, maybe dealing with an angry customer, or avoiding a customer becoming angry because you could potentially predict off the basis of some data or interactions with that customer that customer was going to be unhappy if you didn't do something about it. So that digital feedback loop is incredibly important. And I want you to consider that feedback loop today in your assessment, challenge that you've been posed for STEM, non-STEM, and the third one, which escapes me. But it would be quite interesting. But I do want you to lift your minds for just a little bit to understand where we could go with this, and where this digital feedback loop and where AI and where this technology can take us in two industries. So we have a bunch of technology that you can use as a business unit, a business user, or a citizen developer, but also for more the sort of people on this call and entering in this hackathon challenge, developers and data scientists. And there's a bunch of services there which you should consider using. I think you're all going to be writing in Python today. And obviously that language, amongst others, are used to help build some of these services that you see today. And these are the services that we have today to help solve some of those challenges we talked about around empowering your employees, delighting your customers, etc. To do that, obviously we have principles around responsible AI, and I think Lee may have touched on this because he's an expert in the area, but things around fairness, transparency, accountability, reliability, privacy and security, and inclusion. So at Microsoft, those principles are key to our development of AI, because we want to make sure that we create a positive impact for people and society. So how can you help create a better world by 2031? So again, you're all here to participate because you have obtained a certain number of skills through your education. So how can we use technology and AI to bring those same opportunities to as many people as possible right around the world? How do we use AI to make the world more accessible and inclusive? And as someone who wants to or is working in the AI field, what role will you play over the next 10 years to improve the world? So, go through that, and let's hopefully get everyone excited about the possibility of AI with a real world example. So with that in mind, and hopefully it was an accessible video. So hopefully for those of you who couldn't hear, you could actually read along because that was all the text. And isn't it great that part of that is, that translation is powered by artificial intelligence and machine learning. So visioning the future of AI in education. So what headlines do you want to read in 2031? Wouldn't it be great to read headlines of child literacy rates in the third world now equal highest, or the gaps closed, Indigenous students' education outcomes match the world's best? One that I know my kids would love to read is school term length reduced by half due to students' mastery of subjects, helped by personalised learning assistance. And obviously, the other side of that coin is, what headlines do you not want to read in 2031? AI data tampered, millions of students affected by machines trained on falsified data. Country falls into deep recession due to continued lack of staff with critical skills. AI-enabled assessment still an issue years after Hackathon should have solved it, and that should say probably 10 years in 2031. So let's hope you get that last one sorted at least. But in all seriousness, if you think about where education could be enabled, enhanced, augmented by AI, we have teachers who are under strain. We have education systems around the world under strain due to funding, due to lack of qualified teachers, due to repressive governments, due to so many other factors, a lack of basic amenities. There's so many things. There's so many ways over the next 10 years that AI could help millions and millions and millions of students with opportunities to participate more fully in their society, in their culture, in their country, in whatever field they would like to. It has a great opportunity to help equalise and address inequalities in society. It also has great opportunities to make society more accessible for students who struggle to participate. It's been a very variable experience for students during the pandemic, depending on which country they're in, depending on where they are in their education journey. So how will you, as future professionals working in the field of AI, make the top headlines come to life rather than the bottom headlines? We literally have an opportunity over the next 10 years, if you think about where we were 10 years ago, to be able to achieve some very, very, very major improvements and outcomes for education around the world. And the second one I wanted to talk to you about was healthcare. Healthcare is under huge pressure at the moment, and it's very topical, obviously, because of the pandemic, and most of you will be coming from a state of lockdown. But healthcare was already struggling before the pandemic, with rising imbalances between the workforce and patients, a huge increase in volume of healthcare data, and the complexities of managing that data, of getting the right access to that data, just getting the data in a format and structure that it's possible to be shared, to actually be analysed, to actually be able to reuse. We've seen improved computing power, declining hardware costs. We have seen an intensified need to reduce healthcare costs. You know, healthcare is very expensive. You know, we spend over $200 billion on healthcare each year, just in Australia. And also, we've seen, obviously, a need to expedite vaccine and drug development processes. An amazing time in healthcare, an absolutely amazing time. So if we applied the same mindset around what headlines would you like to read in 2031 around healthcare and healthcare outcomes and how AI could potentially produce those outcomes. There's some pretty amazing ones, which I know some of you probably have a desire to work on or might be working on. Early accurate detection of cancer, triple survival rates, chronic disease prediction models, save lives and improve life for millions of people around the world. How about this one? First hospital mothballed due to lack of patients. You know, wouldn't that be an amazing outcome if we could get healthcare, you know, personalised to the point that hospitals are somewhere where it's not assumed you will definitely go in your life. You might go there, and hopefully you might go there because you've broken a bone and you need someone to physically set something. But in terms of disease management, disease avoidance, and curing of diseases that are impacted, it may not require a hospital visit. There's other ways that a healthcare could be provided. with AI-infused care regimes. This is an amazing space with an amazing amount of advancements. What headlines do you not want to read in 2031 in healthcare? Health outcomes the most inequitable ever. Healthcare lottery postcode continues, and healthcare costs bankrupt the country. So those are real challenges that we are potentially looking into at the moment. We will need trained data scientists and trained professionals in other fields, in humanities and social science, to actually use the technology, apply the artificial intelligence to make sure that which postcode you live in Australia doesn't determine or is not a primary determinant of your health outcome. We'll have to make sure that the health system is sustainable financially and we can provide the very best patient outcomes and the very best healthcare with a finite sum of financial resources. And all of these things are possible with the skills that you're going to be learning and the challenges you're going to try to solve today. Again, they're just building blocks that you're going to learn on. So I want you to think about how you, as students who will hopefully be professionals or people who are already in an early phase of your career in AI, could use your skills, your knowledge, and your abilities to improve the world for 2031. So that's what I'd like to leave with you today. And I'd like to thank you for your time. Apologies for the tech hiccup with the video. And I'd like to wish you the best of luck. And I think we have a bit of time for questions. There might be questions for me. There might be questions for other people who've spoken today. Please, or we could go to the next presenter. Back to you, Michael, for